Hello everyone, welcome to Botany Optional channel for UPSC examination. In today's video, we are going to see a very important topic called mangroves. And in this first video lecture of mangroves, we are going to see the general characteristics of mangroves. As you know, the mangroves forms the very important part in the plant kingdom as well as they are ecologically very much important in an environment. And often we use the word mangroves in a very special way because they form the very special category of the plants and they are very interesting to study because they are not like the rest of the plants and they have their certain habitats, they have their own characteristic features which make them very special. Before starting the video, I request you to join the Telegram channel of the same name, that is the Botany Optional for UPSC examination, on the Telegram platform. So let's check out the general characteristics of mangroves. Now, this has been given in your UPSC Botany optional syllabus in unit number 4 of paper second. Here, we have the stress physiology for the heat, water, salinity, and metal. So, this topic indirectly covers the mangroves, and that is why you often see the question on mangroves in UPSC mains examination for the Botany optional subject. Now, the very first point we are going to consider is the habitat of mangroves. The habitat of the mangroves is very different from rest of the plant kingdom because they occur along the boundaries of the seas, rivers, creeks, lagoons, and estuaries. So these are the major water bodies, and along the boundaries of these water bodies, mangroves have their habitats. You can see here in this first picture, all these mangroves are growing along the seashores, that is along the boundary of seashores. Now, they often shows the intertidal existence. Now, what is meant by intertidal? If there are some grounds near the seas, along the boundaries of these seas, there is often a high tide and low tide, right? So, during the high tide, all this ground area comes under the water, and during the low tide, this area remains without the water. In this particular intertidal region, these mangroves prefer to grow, right? So you can see in this third picture that there is a high tide and the whole ground is covered by the water, roots of the mangroves as well. And during the low tide, this water withdraws and make the land visible. So during the high tide, the habitat of mangroves is covered by the water, and during the low tide, this water drains off and the habitat of mangroves will remain without the water. They have the very specific intertidal existence. So, in the habitat of the mangroves, you have to remember that they are grow along the boundaries of seas, riverbanks, creeks, lagoons, and estuaries. Plus, they have their intertidal existence. All right. Now, next is they have adaptability to the different stresses. Now, for instance, take this tree in the picture number one. It is growing where there is all around water. Now, in such a condition, you are always in the high salinity condition. As you know, seawater contains the high level of salt and has the very high salinity. So, these are trees has to adapt to the very high salinity. Second, the tidal regime. As we have discussed in slide one, when there is a high tide, the whole habitat of the mangroves grows under the water, and when there is a low tide, the water drains off. So these mangroves also shows the adaptability for the tidal regime as well. Then there is a strong wind velocity. As you know, the winds are strongly move along the shores of the seas. It is growing where there is all around water. Now, in such a condition, you are always in the high salinity condition. As you know, seawater contains the high level of salt and has the very high salinity. So, these are trees has to adapt to the very high salinity. Second, the tidal regime. As we have discussed in slide one, when there is a high tide, the whole habitat of the mangroves grows under the water, and when there is a low tide, the water drains off. So these mangroves also shows the adaptability for the tidal regime as well. Then there is a strong wind velocity. As you know, the winds are strongly move along the shores of the seas. So these strong velocity winds are often tolerated by these mangroves by using their specialized roots, which make them remain very straight even when they are comes in contact with a very strong wind velocity. The fourth one is a very high temperature. That is, in highest temperature ranges, the temperature can go up to the 24 degrees Celsius in certain areas of the world, and this temperature is tolerated by these different mangroves. Now, the next stress they have is the muddy anaerobic soil. That is, they grow where there is a muddy soil because this soil is regularly comes in contact with the saline water, and due to this soil always remain muddy. And secondly, they have the anaerobic conditions, that is, they are without the oxygen. That is, this soil does not contain any oxygen. This again adds to the stresses for the mangroves. So mangroves lives in a very harsh condition where there is a very high salinity, then there is a tidal regime, then there is a very strong wind velocity, very high temperature and muddy anaerobic soil. But all the mangroves are quite adapted for these different types of stresses. Now the next characteristic of mangroves is their geographical location. Now this is the map of the earth, and you can see here this is an equator which is going from the exactly middle portion of the earth. That is, this equator is quite responsible for forming the northern and the southern part of the earth. Now this middle line, which is dividing earth into two parts, it is called equator. Generally all the mangroves grow in between from 30-degree north to the 30-degree south. This is a tropical and subtropical area where these mangroves grow. So within these latitudes, these mangroves has a very special habitat. But if we take the further note of this, you will find the dense population of the mangroves is found between the 5-degree north and 5-degree south. That is, this area has the very dense population of the mangroves, but in general they are distributed from 30-degree north to the 30-degree south. That is the tropical and the subtropical area of the world. All right. Now their presence across the continents. As you know, we have 7 continents, and out of these 7 continents, they can be found in North America, South America, Africa, Asia, and Australia, except the Europe and the Antarctica. That is, they are completely absent in Europe plus Antarctica, but they can be found in North America, South America, Africa, Asia, and Australia. So, continental wise, they have presence in 5 continents except the two called Europe and the Antarctica. All right. Then mangroves have the breathing roots. Now these are very famous roots of the mangroves, and we often call them as a nematophores. Right. In this picture, you can observe these nematophores. Generally, these nematophores can be 30 to 35 centimeters long. Plus, they are green in color, and being green in color, they contain the chlorophyll pigment, and you can say that these can also perform the process of photosynthesis. But photosynthesis is not their primary aim, but their primary aim is to have access to the oxygen. As we have discussed in a previous slide, the soil conditions of the habitat of mangroves contains the muddy anaerobic soil. That is, this soil is devoid of the oxygen. So in such a cases, the mangroves has the adaptability to grow their roots vertically upward in the air. Now, due to the access of this air, now there comes in the contact with the oxygen, and they start oxygenating their tissues. So in this way, they avoid the stress of anaerobic condition. So the mangroves have very special breathing roots. We call them as a pneumatophores. They generally comes out vertically from the ground, and they are generally 30 to 35 centimeters in length. Often they are green in color and can perform the photosynthesis, but their primary aim is to have access to the oxygen. All right. Now, next thing we are going to see about the mangroves is they provide shelter to the many animal species. As you can observe in this picture, this is a typical mangrove tree, and there is a widespread root system of these mangrove trees. Now, below this root system particularly provide breeding grounds for the many fishes. As you know, fishes use the typical hideouts for their breeding purposes. So these mangrove roots are used by the fishes for their hideouts. Not only the fishes, but the mollusks plus reptiles are also use the habitat of the mangrove trees. So you have to remember very careful that the mangroves plays a very important ecological role in an aquatic ecosystem that they provide shelter to the many different types of species of animals, including the fishes, reptiles, mollusks, etc. Then the next characteristic of mangroves is they are the barriers between the mainland and the ocean. As you can observe, they form the boundary for the ocean. That is, whenever there is a high tide, it first comes in contact with the mangroves, which in turn slow down the tide. What happens due to this? The water does not flow out of control to the mainland, and due to this, the mainland soil get conserved. That is, the soil erosion does not occur due to the presence of mangroves. So again, here the mangrove playing is a very important role in the ecological conservation. All right, this is all about the mangroves. Please like the video. If you have any doubt about this lecture, please make comment in the comment box. Please share this video with your friends who are studying the botany, and please subscribe to the Botany Option channel for UPSC examination. Again, thank you very much for watching this video. See you in the next one.